talk to Gage.
And hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Terminator franchise and my thoughts on them. Because recently I went through and I binge watched all 6 Terminator movies. Now maybe binge watch isn't the right word because I did take a huge break after T2 and we'll get to that and the reason why. But I just kind of want to talk about these movies right now because there's a lot of thoughts I have on them. So I just want to go through each one, just share some brief thoughts, just whatever I'm thinking about with these movies and see if there's other people out there who relate. So you have to let me know if you do down in the comments. So starting things off with Terminator 1, The Terminator. This movie is it's so phenomenal. It's so good. I was shocked at how much I enjoyed this film. It turns out this is basically, technically, James Cameron's first movie. If you really want to get technical about it, technically this other movie, Piranha 3D, was his first movie. I don't know if I'd count that. Sounds like there was a lot of just weird behind the scenes things that made it to where he wasn't really in charge of that vision of whatever that was, that movie, which I've never seen the movie, so can't say too much about it. But anyways, T1, that's James Cameron's first real movie. And I was just blown away by how good it was. I very much enjoyed it, and I instantly connected with Sarah Connor as a character in that film, which I did not expect. I really connected to that character more so than I ever expected I would have going into it. Because she feels like a very real person. You know, she is working at this restaurant as a waitress, you know, and we get to see that, you know, her life isn't perfect, you know, bad things happen, these mistakes are happening, whatever it is, and she is really grounded by all of that. It makes her really seem like a real person. And that was something that I really appreciated about the movie. And of course, the Terminator effects are awesome. Seeing him in this movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger, is awesome. And the effects are also, say it with me, awesome. I thought this movie was quite an amazing start to a film franchise. And I still think it's quite amazing. I rewatched it again just the other night, and it's just so good. And then T2 is probably one of the best movies ever made. Honestly, like, I have not watched that many movies, although there is a short list of movies that after I watched them, I kind of gave up on movies for a time. I kind of just had to take a break because I felt like I had experienced some of the absolute best movies could offer, and I felt like it couldn't get much better than that. And honestly, a lot of it's just indescribable to where I just don't watch movies for a time at all. I just can't do it. I just don't want to. And T2 is one of those times. This movie just further goes with the character writing of Sarah Connor, introduces other characters into the mix, and it just solidified this movie as just one of my favorite movies of all time. It was an instant classic, you know, back when it came out. I mean, for me, it's now, you know, because I'm just now getting to experience this masterpiece, but bruh.
I thought you were playing the bunker.
Nah, dog, I'm busy. It's just too good. And also, I think it's crazy how Jurassic Park is oftentimes cited as like the CGI movie. Like, that was the movie that made CGI kind of viable, you know, without looking terrible. T2 came out in 1991. It is like 3 years older than Jurassic Park, and that is insane to me because it still looks amazing, and they did a good job with making the effects mostly of like this goopy, kind of gooey metal type stuff, and so the CG being very undetailed works in its favor, you know, but they still did reflections and stuff in this, so it's really quite amazing. I was very impressed with that part of the movie. And just the themes of, you know, the Terminator becoming more human, and then Sarah Connor becoming more robotic. And then ultimately that conclusion was just phenomenal. Peak movie, peak sci-fi, one of the best sci-fi movies, if not the best sci-fi movie ever made. And then there was a third one, and I think this movie instantly had a stupid title. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines is so not what this movie is. You would think that, oh, finally we're gonna get a movie that is this image that we've been given throughout the first two of the very blue hue, 80s, the very like cool look of the Terminators just like walking around and they're shooting the laser guns, and it's just all these effects and flying, plane things and the big destroyer bots, like so cool. And you'd think that's what this finally would be. We would have a time skip and we'd get to that. It's not what it is. It's not what the movie is. This movie is so uninspired. It is just T2 again, but without any of just the really good character writing and story that was going on in that movie. So not a very good movie at all. Honestly, it was so forgettable. I just can think of a few things that I didn't like about it, and there was not a whole lot that I really liked. The effects are pretty good. They're definitely still good in this movie, and there's some definitely cool shots, but that's pretty much about it. I don't care about this movie, and I really don't ever want to watch it ever again. Next up is T4, and T4 Salvation is probably my third pick in this franchise if I were to rank them. Because even though I think it's still bad, it's still not good, I think that at least Salvation was a little different. And it did finally give me the sequel that I wanted every Terminator sequel to be, but none of them ever were. Salvation was the closest, but it's still miles away from what I wanted. Because finally we got that movie where it's all about John Connor being older, being the main character, and fighting Terminators, faghting machines at least. And that's what I don't like about it. This feels like a very what Michael Bay did to like Transformers. It feels like he, it has that same effect on Terminator. Even though this isn't a Michael Bay movie, it screams that version of like Transformers and what happened. They take all the color out of it, they take all the personality, and they just make it just just action, and that's all it ever is. It's very older, mature, gritty. I don't like that. And that's what I didn't like about Salvation, is it doesn't really feel like a Terminator movie. As cool as some of the things in the movie are and some of the ideas are, the movie just does nothing with it. And there's some really bad editing in this movie as well, where scenes will happen and then it cuts and it looks like they're in a totally different place, and then it cuts back to where they were originally. It's just really weird. I don't think it's a very good movie, but I was very surprised that the casting of John Connor was quite weird because it was Christian Bale. And it's weird not because it's a bad idea. I think it's actually a great idea, but it was just weird because I was like, Christian Bale was in a Terminator movie? Like, that's insane. But overall, yeah, it's a pretty bad movie. I like Kyle Reese. Kyle Reese in this movie, even though he doesn't really remind me of Kyle Reese at all, I like his actor at least. I don't know who he is, but I thought he did a good job, and I kind of liked how he was kind of that boyish voice and personality. That was kind of cool. And the next up is T5, Terminator Genisys. I don't really like this movie at all. I could not even get past the first 15 minutes. But with that being said, if I were to accurately rank Terminator Genisys, I would say the first 15 minutes of it is probably the third best thing that's ever come out of this franchise. The rest of the movie is easily the worst thing, because the first 15 minutes finally gave me that movie. At least it gave me a glimpse of what that movie could be, where it brings back the look of Terminator, which they did a good job of that. The blue hue, the T-800s, I think is what they are. The Terminators just looking like they're supposed to. They look so cool. The effects on them are epic. I'm like, oh yes, this screams 80s and 90s, and I really adore that scene. And it's really epic. And then they send Kyle Reese back in time, and it's a retelling, a rewrite of the original Terminator movie, and I hate it. I hate it because you can do a rewrite of canon and just call it a different universe. I'm cool with that, but the problem is all the rewrites don't make any sense. They make John Connor the villain, never really is explained in any way. There's no motivation whatsoever. He's just the villain now, and we just have to be okay with that. That's really stupid. Everyone gets recasted. I think all the recasts are pretty terrible. Sarah Connor being recasted was the moment I stopped caring about the movie, and I was pretty much on my phone for the rest of it and just passively watching it because I just couldn't stomach the fact that it wasn't Linda Hamilton playing Sarah Connor, and that Sarah Connor as a character was trapped in this horrible movie. It was terrible. I hate Terminator Genesis. It is by far the worst movie as a whole in the franchise, but the first 15 minutes is peak. And finally, just very briefly, Terminator Dark Fate is a very mixed bag. I thought it was great to see Sarah Connor played by Linda Hamilton again. I adore what she did with that character in the first two movies. Unfortunately, she really doesn't feel like she has anything to do in this movie. It's just kind of that nostalgia bait, like, oh, look, we brought back the character. Aren't you happy? And it just does nothing with it. It's like, come on, like, what was the point? So, yeah, that's kind of lame. What they did with Arnie's character in the movie was more compelling. I would say it is very interesting, but the movie doesn't focus on it at all. It's just a very sub point of the movie. So, kind of also just feels like, all right, what was the point? I will say the new character, the blonde haired lady, don't even know her name, so how good could she really be? But I will say that her character actually was kind of compelling. I will say I was impressed by how much I actually cared about that character and how interesting I found her to be. I did not expect that. I was quite shocked. But it still did not save this movie. It is still not very good. I don't like how they sort of get rid of the victory of T2 in the beginning of Dark Fate, because it's nice to think that Sarah and John just lived a happy life after the events of T2, and I think there's even a deleted scene or a third version of the movie that actually includes that scene of them growing old and seeing John have his kids and Sarah seeing that. That's amazing. That's what we should have gotten. That's what we should have seen, but Dark Fate instead makes it to where John's killed off in the first 5 minutes of the movie. It's like, this kid cannot get a break. And the new main Sarah Connor stand-in character that's meant to be the hope for the future, one, that plot being recycled is stupid as freak and so boring to me. And two, that character is such a nothing character and is so bland. I did not like her at all. She had nothing interesting about her whatsoever. She was easily the weakest part of the movie because there's just nothing to her. And then there was one line in the movie where it was really stupid because she was like, I'm not gonna be the mom of some man who's gonna save the world.
You are not the mother of some man who saves the future.
What is this movie right now? So, yeah, Dark Fate's it's in there. It exists, but I don't really care about any of them. And I really just want to talk about these movies because I've been rewatching them with one of my brothers, and I've just been thinking about them a lot. I adore the first two movies, and I really think the Terminator as a franchise is kind of bad. It had 2 amazing movies and 4 bad movies, because I really do believe all of them are kind of bad movies. They're not good because each one also tried to start a trilogy, a franchise in and of themselves, and all of them failed. That's just lame. So anyways, yeah, just kind of want to share my brief thoughts on each of these movies and just put it out there to you guys. What do you all think about the Terminator movies? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And with that being said, I'll see you all in the next video. God bless.